It's a real privilege today to shed light on kind of one of the greatest artists of all time, many would say, and I think that's completely correct. And an artist who I kind of want to, play as much music of as possible in the next hour and a half. The incredible Gil Scott-Heron. I mean, he loves his face actually on the front of the records. It's like I was almost like, am I doubling up? Are they different records? But yeah, I mean, of course, one of the great poets, the great, some would say, rappers, musicians, who really stepped into a space where he combined poetry with music to create something that had never really been done before. We're going to go back to the beginning, but I think we should really start with a tune off this record. This is actually a compilation, of course, named after one of probably his most famous track, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. That's signed by Brian Jackson, actually, who came by my studio the other day. I was cycling here listening to my interview with him, actually, which was nice. It kind of brought back some of the incredible stories he told me about his amazing partnership with Gil Scott-Heron. He was really the man responsible for composing most of the music that soundtracked Gil Scott-Heron's poetry, especially through the 70s. I mean, this really has got so much of the... I mean, which one should we start with? Do you know what? We'll start with Lady Day and John Coltrane and Let It Go into Pieces of a Man. And then we'll step out of it and we'll go back to the very beginning, because there's a very special record here on the floor, a particularly special one, and we'll get into that. Gil Scott-Heron special, what an honour. Lady Day and John Coltrane, one of the great tunes of this great man. We're going to let it run into Pieces of a Man afterwards.
Ever feel kinda down and out, you don't know just what to do? Living all of your days in darkness, let the sun shine through. Somehow, somewhere you lost your way. And if you don't get a help quick, you won't make it through the day. Or could you call on Lady Day? Could you call on John Coltrane now? 'Cause they'll wash your troubles away. People with plastic minds are on their way to plastic homes. No beginning, there ain't no ending, just on and on and on and on and on. It's all because they're so afraid to say that they're alone. Until our hero troubles away. Your troubles, your troubles, your troubles, your troubles away. Yeah, they'll wash your troubles away. They'll wash your troubles away. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Jagged jigsaw pieces tossed about the room. I saw my grandma sweeping with her old straw broom. She didn't know what she was doing. She could hardly understand that she was really sweeping up pieces of a man. I saw my daddy meet the mailman, and I heard the mailman say,
now don't you take this letter too hard now, Jimmy.
they've laid off 9 others today. But he didn't know what he was saying. He could hardly understand that he was only talking to pieces of a man.
I saw the thunder and heard the lightning and felt the burden of his shame.
And for some unknown reason,
he never turned my way.
Pieces of that letter were tossed about the room, and now I hear the sound of sirens come knifing through the gloom. But they don't know what they are doing. They could hardly understand that they're only arresting pieces of a man.
I saw him go to pieces. I saw him go to pieces. He was always such a good man. He was always such a strong, strong man. Yeah, I saw him go to pieces. I saw him go to pieces.
That is just unbelievable. So emotional, actually, his voice. I mean, it's just got to be one of the voices in music with so much emotion in it. And it's not even just the words that he's saying, it's the way in which he expresses them that hits, I think, us so hard. You can tell that he means it. There's a sincerity, a deep sincerity of having lived the experience that he's here to share, but this incredible, belief in what he's saying and care to share it with people. And a lot of that was indicative of his upbringing. Gil Scott-Heron was born in 1949. He was born in Chicago, and when he was 1 year old, his parents ended up splitting up, and he had to go down to Tennessee to live with his grandma, and that was in the Deep South in the beginning of the 50s, when there was still very much racial segregation. And he lived there until the age of 13, when his grandmother ended up passing away, and he went back over to meet his mum, and by that point she had settled in the Bronx in New York, and that was when Gil Scott-Heron went to school in New York and started to get into poetry. Very interestingly, a very interesting fact, Gil Scott-Heron's father, Gil Heron, does anybody know about, he was the first black footballer for Celtic FC in Glasgow, which is unbelievable, actually. As a lover of poetry, music and football, learning that really did excite me. Gil Scott-Heron opted for literature over football, and it was in the Bronx that he was, he really got into writing his poetry, and there was one piece of writing that he gave when he was in high school, at DeWitt Clinton High School, which was a school kind of named after the Dutch colonization of America, as a lot of names are, including Harlem. Harlem comes from a city in the Netherlands that was colonized by the Dutch. They took one of the A's off. And Gil Scott-Heron submitted this piece of writing, and his teacher took it and thought that it was so incredible that she took it upon herself to go to the private school, a very prestigious private school for literature that was in the area, and went and essentially said, "You've got to consider taking this guy. This guy's really special." But this private school only had 2 black people in the entirety of the school. And Gil Scott-Heron went and in his interview, he was asked by the person who interviewed him, how would you feel if, when you're walking up the hill from the subway to school, you see your fellow white schoolmates coming in a limousine? And he replied, as a teenager, "I'd feel the same way that you'd feel, because you can't afford a limousine, clearly." And that almost became this imprint that was indicative and echoed the boldness, the fearlessness, and the characterful nature of his expression and his music. At a time right now where there's so much political censorship and division, but moreover, a sense of fear, even within artists, a fear to express oneself with truth, with honesty. I feel like, as an artist myself, our fundamental kind of platform that we find ourselves all on to sell ourselves is social media. And I think it's very easy to become seduced by the idea of aesthetics rather than expression and rather than principle. And I think it's very rare these days to truly find people, I don't know if any of us truly have that level of total integrity because of the way in which the arts works at the moment. But I think these kind of principles are so important to consider. I was just in Germany. I was just playing in Berlin literally 48 hours ago. I was there and I played a night. I actually cannot believe that it was less than 48 hours ago. And I was speaking to a lot of people while I was there that day. And of course, in Germany, in terms of everything that's going on in Palestine right now, there's extreme levels of censorship because of the history of Germany, the German guilt that kind of comes into it all, and the enormous sense of police brutality and the way in which they're policing these protests. And I spoke to a lot of people about that, and they were like, a lot of us feel the same way, but a lot of us don't really know how to express it or where to express it or have the courage to talk about it. And I gave a speech at the end of that performance, and I played some Gil Scott-Heron that weekend, and I was thinking about it, and I said, we really, as our generation of artists and our generation of people, we need to take the spirit and the courage and the boldness and the fearlessness of these incredible artists who fought through the civil rights movement, who fought for kind of the most fundamental forms of equality, to be on a bus, you know, to be able to have a right to have a meal at school, to have a right to education, you know, the people who had to fight without being able to be preoccupied by aesthetics and image. They had to get the job done, and they had to speak up for those who didn't have a voice. And I think it's so important at this time where we see the suffering around us. It's almost this kind of ironic situation where it's so exposed to us. We can actually see what's going on far away, yet we're even more reluctant to speak up because we know what could be on the line. And I think when all is said and done and we die and we're about to die, I think maybe when we think back on it, I think we probably will think we wish we did more. We all would want to think that. And perhaps we might think we wish we spoke more for the things that mattered. So as someone that's, you know, still in my 20s or whatever, I think about those moments when I read about Gil Scott-Heron, and I just think, all right, how can I be more courageous? And how can I instill that energy into what I'm doing, but also find that sense of strength and share that sense of strength and hope for that sense of strength in those alongside me. Because we're at a time where I think we really need each other, you know, and we're all in this together, and we need to stop thinking that it's each person for themselves. And so, yeah, I don't know, that just came into me now, just thinking of this man. I mean, how incredible he is and he was. Anyway, yeah, so I'll speak a little bit more about kind of, you know, his upbringing in a bit, but I think we should take it back to his first record, back to where it all began. I went on a little solo record digging pilgrimage last year in America. I was playing a show in New York, and I trotted over to Detroit because I've always wanted to go to Detroit, and everyone talks about it, but nobody that I know actually has ever been. And then I went over to Chicago, and it was this kind of, I've never done a solo trip before. It was actually an amazing solo trip. And yeah, just like from the East Coast through the Midwest, across states by kind of car and train, and really getting to see this, you know, beating belly of energetic, deep American culture, where so many of the greatest artists and most fearless expressors came from. Just to step in through these cities and walk these roads and go through these institutions and spend time in these record shops gave me this energy that I actually just can't describe. And I was in Detroit, and there was an amazing record shop there. Too expensive though. I understand that these records are expensive, and I spend a lot. But the guy as well, a bit of a weird guy. But the weirder the record shop owner, the better the record shop normally. And it was called Circle Game and in Detroit, and it was a bookshop, and they had a first pressing of Gil Scott-Heron's first record, but it was $200. And I'd already spent a lot of money. I'd already had to send a shipment back to London by this point on the trip. And I was obviously in there agonizing. He was not budging. There was another jazz record by this incredible saxophonist. Her name is Vi Red. She put out this amazing record in 1962 called Bird Call. She was one of the first female saxophonists on the scene. She was from the West Coast. In fact, Roy Ayers, who we all know, the first record he ever played on as a teenager was a sideman, was Vi Red's Bird Call, 1962, and nobody knows about her. Obviously, some people know about her, but she's not in the canon of jazz as I think she should be. Anyway, I bought that there, and that was triple figures. So then when I saw the Gil Scott-Heron, I was like, no. Anyway, I leave, and then I end up in Chicago, and I come across this record shop that actually ended up being one of the best record shops that I've ever been to in my life, Hyde Park Records. And yeah, amazing record shop, and it also had amazing paintings that had just been left by these old Chicago artists that would come in. It's properly kind of had a Harlem element to it, but it was in Chicago. I don't really know Chicago geographically that well. And what was there? The Gil Scott-Heron record, original pressing, first press of the first record, $100. I was like, I'm copping that. And this was it. This was it. An original 1970 first pressing of his first ever record, 21 years old, Gil Scott-Heron, Small Talk at 1/2/5 and Lenox. And for those of you who are familiar with New York, of course, the streets are numbered. So 125th Street is kind of right in the middle of Harlem, and on the junction of Lenox Avenue, which is now named Malcolm X Boulevard alongside Lenox Avenue, is where Gil Scott-Heron recorded this. And he was approached by one of the greatest producers, Bob Thiele, who actually went on to produce so many of the greatest jazz records ever. But this was still 1970, so he hadn't really entered the canon of jazz producers in the way that he went on to do with the Van Gelders, of course. He'd come across Gil Scott-Heron because Gil Scott-Heron, when he was 19 years old, put out this record, this book, a novel called The Vulture. He went on to publish some poetry, and then Bob Thiele and him were talking, and he was like, look, why don't you try and put a bit of music with your poetry? But they didn't have enough budget to put a full band with it and make the Gil Scott-Heron music that perhaps we now know. And so it was kind of original, rootsy poetry and percussion. And on the percussion, you've got Eddie Knowles on conga and Charlie Saunders on the conga, and also a man called David Barnes on percussion. That's the four of them over there that you see. This is, they don't make records like this anymore. The liner notes, the photos. This is why, to the people that make records, when you invest in the production, the creation of a record, it will last forever. And I don't know how many, 56 years after this was made, here we are in this room holding it, appreciating the beauty of it. Whoever did this, we'll read what Gil Scott-Heron just wrote here before we spin it. He was 21 years old, by the way, at the time of this record being made. He said, a little over 21 years ago, I was introduced into what is laughingly referred to as civilization. This term in itself demonstrates how mankind has managed to maintain a sense of humour throughout all of history's chaos. I am a black man dedicated to expression of the joy and pride of blackness. I consider myself neither poet, composer, or musician. These are merely tools used by sensitive men to carve out a piece of beauty or truth that they hope may lead to peace and salvation. Oh my God, that is goosebumpy. It's a live recording. They kind of let it roll. So yeah, do you know what? Should we just let it roll? Should we just let it roll? We'll let it roll for as long as we can, because obviously we want to listen to some of the other stuff, and I can get quite carried away with it, and just let it play. But we'll listen to it. We'll let it roll. And of course, the really interesting thing here is this is the first ever rendition of The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. Before there was proper music and composition over it. It was just with the drums. So this is a really important snapshot into the journey of Gil Scott-Heron, because you get the poet. I know he said he's not a poet, but you get the poet that came before the musician arrived. So this was raw, and this was before he was in a studio with loads of different instruments. This was taking it back to the roots of where it all came from. This was taking it back to the roots of blackness, Africa, the Congo drums, and an ode to his father's Jamaican roots as well. Small Talk at 125th and Lenox Avenue.
Good evening and welcome. My name is Gil Scott-Heron. My accomplices are, first from left to right, Eddie Knowles, a drummer for the Denny Zulu Dance Group, a drummer for the Simba Dancers, and a percussionist for a group called Black and Blues. The brother to my immediate left is Charlie Saunders of the Simba Dance Group and a former drummer for Loretta Porker. David Barnes, a singer for Black and Blues, will be heard later on in the evening. We'd like to do a poem for you called The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, primarily because it won't be. You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials, because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Mendel Rivers to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nubs. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner. The revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on reports from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of Whitney Young being run out of Harlem on a rail with a brand new process. There will be no slow motion or still lifes of Roy Wilkins strolling through Watts in a red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit that he had been saving for just the right occasion. Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, and Hooterville Junction will no longer be so goddamn relevant, and women will not care if Dick finally screwed Jane on Search for Tomorrow, because black people will be in the street looking for a brighter day. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no highlights on the 11 o'clock news, and no pictures of Harry-armed women liberationists and Jackie Onassis blowing her nose. The theme song will not be written by Jim Webb or Francis Scott Keys, nor sung by Glenn Campbell, Tom Jones, Johnny Cash, or Engelbert Humperdinck. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be right back after a message about a white tornado, white lightning, or white people. You will not have to worry about a dove in your bedroom, the tiger in your tank, or the giant in your toilet bowl. The revolution will not go better with Coke. The revolution will not fight germs that may cause bad breath. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live. We'd like to do a poem that was inspired by a still life in the subway that was a commercial for a movie called The Green Slime, and we call this poem Omen. A giant eye zapped across the screen with tentacle-type, feeler-type thin roots reaching for someone, maybe me, with large black block letters chiseled into the whites around the pupils screaming REVOLUTION, revolution. And as the eye, giant and green, sort of oozed with no obvious locomotion, closer and closer, until it was like this on my screen. It split and blood flowed down each side of the street, washing away things that we didn't need to see. Just like beer cans, peanut shells, and copies of the Daily News. And then, laying there, bleeding like a stuck pig, was a stuck pig. Get the point? There are a lot of comments about who's blacker than you are and who's blacker than she is and blacker than thou. In other words, that's a sort of trend. And in looking on various street corners in Harlem, I'm sure you've seen it yourself, standing on a soapbox on the corner is an alleged brother dressed in blue and black dashikis, or green, red, and black dashikis, and spouting the news that the revolution is coming and you better get ready. It's sort of like the end of the world is coming. I saw a recent commercial that said, unfortunately, the world is just going to drag on and on. And we have a poem that we've written particularly for the brothers on the street corners, and it's called just that, Brother. We deal in too many externals, brother. Always afros, handshakes, and dashikis. Never can a man build a working structure for black capitalism. Always does the man read Mao or Fanon. I think I know you would-be black revolutionaries too well. Standing on a box on the corner, talking about blowing the white boy away. That's not where it's at yet, brother. Calling this man an Uncle Tom and telling this woman to get an afro, but you won't speak to her if she looks like hell, now will you, brother? Some of us been checking your act out kinda close, and by now it's looking kinda shaky. The way you've been rushing people with your super black bag, jumping down on some black men with both feet because they're after their BA. But you're never around when your BA is in danger. I mean your black ass. I think it was a little too easy for you to forget that you were a Negro before Malcolm. You drove your white girl through the village every Friday night while the grassroots stared in envy and drank wine. Do you remember? You need to get your memory banks organized, brother. Show that man you calling Uncle Tom just where he's wrong. Show that woman that you're a sincere black man. All we need to do is see you shut up and be black. Help that woman, help that man. That's what brothers are for, brother. Poem here says, comment number 1. Comment number 2 was dynamite, but comment number 1 was the one that we decided to use here this evening because it makes a comment, if you listen closely, on what is now being advertised in East Harlem as the Rainbow Conspiracy, a combination of the Students for a Democratic Society, the Black Panthers, and the Young Lords. And this is my particular comment about that conspiracy. Comment number 1. The time is in the street, you know, us living as we do upside down, and the new word to have is revolution. People don't even want to hear the preacher spill or spiel because God's whole card has been thoroughly peeped, and America is now blood and tears instead of milk and honey. The youngsters who were programmed to continue fucking up woke up one night digging Paul Revere and Nat Turner as the good guys. America stripped for bed and we had not all yet closed our eyes. The signs of truth were tattooed across our often entered vagina. We learned to our amazement the untold tale of scandal. 2 long centuries buried in a musty vault, hosed down daily with a gagging perfume. America was a bastard, the illegitimate daughter of the mother country, whose legs were then spread around the world, and a rapist known as freedom, free doom. Democracy, liberty, and justice were revolutionary code names that preceded the bubbling, 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 bubbling in the mother country's crotch. And behold, a baby girl was born, nurtured by slaveholders and whitey racists. It grew and grew and grew, screwing indiscriminately, like mother, like daughter, everything unplagued by her madam mother. The present mocks us. Good black people with keen memories set fire to the bastards who ask us in a whisper to melt and integrate. Young, very young, teeny bopping, revolt on weekend young, dig by proxy what a mental ass kicking they receive through institutionalized everything and vomit up slogans to stay out of Vietnam. They seek to hide their relationship with the world's prostitute, alienating themselves from everything except dirt and money with long hair, grime, and dope to camera hide the things that cannot be hidden. They become runaway children to walk the streets downtown with everyday black people, sitting on the curb crying because we know that they will go back home with a clear conscience and a college degree. The irony of it all, of course, is when a pale-faced SDS motherfucker dares look hurt when I tell him to go find his own revolution. He wonders why I tell him that America's revolution will not be the melting pot, but the toilet bowl. He is fighting for legalized smoke, a lower voting age, less lip from his generation gap, and fucking in the street. Where's my parallel to that? All I want is a good home and a wife and a children and some food to feed them every night. Back goes Paleface to basics. Does Little Orphan Annie have a natural? Do Sluggo's kinks make him a refugee from Mandingo? What does Webster say about soul? I say, you silly trait motherfucker, your great-grandfather tied a ball and chain to my balls and bounced me through a cotton field while I lived in an unflushable toilet bowl. And now you want me to help you overthrow what? The only truth that can be delivered to a 4-year revolutionary with a whole card, i.e. skin, is this. Fuck up what you can in the name of Piggy Wallace, Dickless Nixon, and Spyro Agnew. Leave Brother Cleaver and Brother Malcolm alone, please. After all is said and done, build a new route to China if they'll have you. Who will survive in America? Who will survive in America? Who will survive in America? Who will survive in America?
Oh, wow. That was quite amazing. Who Will Survive in America? That was a Kanye sample as well, isn't it? He named a song after that. Also, if anyone's got any thoughts or anything that they want to contribute or anything that they've observed that they feel like, please just raise your hand and it'll be cool to make it a collective discussion. I feel like this is just one of those more introspective. I mean, listening to that feels like an English literature, like the best English literature lesson ever, isn't it? Just listening to Gil Scott-Heron sharing. And to be honest, hearing that on this system is really quite profound. Really, you can hear the energy and the fire in his voice from the very beginning. At 21 years old, having just taken a sabbatical, leaving university, and telling his university that, you know, I'm leaving for a year, but I'm going to stay on campus and you can give me access to everything that you've got because I'm going to write a novel and it's going to get published. I mean, that level of self-confidence, which, you know, is for me, I take so much inspiration from that. And I'm like, in order for Gil Scott-Heron to be the figure he was, he had to believe that he could be that figure. And he didn't go into poetry, he didn't go into performance as somebody that apologised. He didn't go into it waiting for permission. He went in, broke down the walls that he knew he wanted to, and created his own path and carved that out for a lot of people to subsequently follow. So amazing, and actually a real honour to be able, because there were not that many of this that were pressed, the first ever pressing of the first ever record. So it's... 20, he was 20 years old. 20 years old is unbelievable, actually. This is a real piece of history right here. I just want to, before we go on to kind of his subsequent music, just to think a little bit about where that influence was coming from. You know, he went over to the Bronx, he spent a lot of time in Harlem, he recorded that in Harlem. This was 1970, this was off the back of the 60s, the very beating heart of the civil rights movement. Harlem was the very centre of it, and figures like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were bearing the flag and leading the direction for a lot of young black people to follow. And Gil Scott-Heron was incredibly inspired by the Black Arts Movement, looking at that history and looking at these incredibly bold and fearless mouthpieces that were standing up for black people at a time where their rights were incredibly reduced and they were incredibly subjugated by those that ran the land. And one of the groups that Gil Scott-Heron was incredibly inspired by, and actually he went over to when I think he saw them perform at his university, and he said, I need some advice on how I can do what you're doing, was a group called the Last Poets, who were doing their thing in Harlem. And actually, if you're looking at the history of hip hop and you're looking at where rap music came from and who really brought together that combination of politically conscious language and riveting, compelling, rhythmic music, I would say it is the Last Poets, subsequently followed by Gil Scott-Heron, who went on to, in my opinion, have even more of an influence, that laid down the foundations directly for hip-hop culture. And funnily enough, I found this in the same record shop, in the same 10 minutes that I found this record, and I love it when that happens. Hyde Park Records, if you're ever in Chicago, make sure you go. And I want to play a song off this record, which came out just before that Gil Scott-Heron one. So this would have been a year or two before. And funnily enough, I'm sure that this song inspired The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. I haven't looked it up, but it's called When the Revolution Comes. But he doesn't agree with everything in this Gil Scott-Heron. He takes it and he almost disagrees with some of it, almost the televised element. But it's just a short one, but we'll we'll play it just so we can get an idea of what he was listening to and what was inspiring him at a time where he was actually still so unique. But this was a really important reference point for the art that he was creating. So this is The Last Poets in Harlem during that period when the revolution comes.
Black day is coming. I wish black day is here.
I am a black wish. I am the thought of all things, thinking of wishing for something to come true. I am the wish and the wishbone that white people break for good luck. And the next day one of them falls and breaks their neck. I am the wish that makes Walt Disney wish upon a star shining like the light of truth in the darkest night. Wish upon my star, Walt Disney, for I am truth. I am the wish that makes the white faggot wish that the nachos he's eating for lunch would follow him home for dinner. I am the wish that makes the Creole lady wish she had the body of Cleopatra, the voice of Billie Holiday, the sexiness of Eartha Kitt, and the apple of Abbey Lincoln, for then she would be truly beautiful, and her hairdresser would have to wish if she knew for sure. I am the wish that makes George Wallace wish he could make love to Lola Falana. I am the wish that makes all niggers and Negroes wish for alligator shoes, white thighs, Eldorados, and wish that they didn't run out of wishes. I am the wish that makes Nina Simone wish she knew how it felt to be free. I am the wish all black people are wishing for. I am the wish of freedom. Yes, I am the wish of black freedom. And I wish, and I wish, and I wish, and I wish I know, and I know I wish, and I wish I know, and I know I wish, and I wish, and I know, and I know, and I know that wish will come true.
I actually meant to put on the next tune, so we'll let it run to the next song.
Have you seen the skinny little boy that chases the white ghost at night? Have you seen the little boy? Face puffed up, tracks in his arm, and his mind blown. His mom is somewhere drinking and talking about survival. Pop's in jail or downtown in the Y. The little boy chases white ghosts with his friend, and they get high. And they get high. And they get high. Like Cloud 9, where everything is fine. No responsibility. Have you seen two little boys running past you with a lady's purse? They stole the black one's purse the other day, yesterday, today, tomorrow. Face puffed up, tracks in their arm, eyes popping out of their skulls, and their minds blown. And they get high, and they get high. Talking about tripping, talking about flying, talking about getting high, getting high. Have you seen two little boys sitting in Sylvia's, stuffing chicken and cornbread down their tasteless mouths, trying to revive a dying heart, shrinking lungs and wasted minds? Have you seen the sickness of our people? And all the while we parade around in robes of our ancestors and wisdoms of the universe, and all the while there are children dying, chasing the white ghost. Whitey is dying and his fucking ghost is killing us. Oh, beautiful black hands, reach out and snatch the death out of the youth of our nation. Oh, beautiful black minds, create the world for children to play with life and not with death. Oh, beautiful black brothers and sisters, come together and create life. Come together and create love. Come together and create. Come together and create.
Yeah, it's one of those records where they've written down the wrong. I mean, like, yeah, that song should have been there, but it's not. But it's a song called "When the Revolution Comes." But still, you get a sense of that percussion and that poetry and that rawness and almost the satirical tone, almost theatrical, as if you're listening to a skit or a sketch where there are these characters going at each other, the drums against the voice, and I think, you know, listening to that next to A New Black Poet, which we just heard from Gil Scott-Heron, I think, yeah, there's a really strong element of those drums. And of course, to play the drums as well was to pay homage to the very roots of black music. You know, we can't forget that in times of slavery, when black people would play drums, the punishments would be such that they would get their hands chopped off because they would be communicating messages through these ancient rhythms that the slave owners couldn't understand. And so there is a deep trauma and a deep history attached to these sounds and the way in which they were played. And so to combine this poetry, to combine this literature, this language, alongside such raw, percussive rhythms, was revolutionary at a time where that hadn't really been done before. And this was the beginning of hip hop. This was where the beginning of rap music, in a sense, coming off the back of rhythm and blues, coming off the back of jazz. And now, as we go over to Pieces of a Man, the next record that Gil Scott-Heron put out, you really start to hear the influence of people like Ron Carter, who actually was part of the band at certain times, or John Coltrane, that was one of his greatest influences. This was happening in the beating heart of Harlem. You just heard the Last Poets refer to a restaurant called Sylvia's that's still there. This history is so raw, it's so real, and geographically, Harlem was very much at the centre of it. Following that 1970 release, they managed to get a bit more budget for the next record, and Gil Scott-Heron ended up putting out this record, perhaps his most iconic record of all time, a record called Pieces of a Man. And yeah, it came out again on the Flying Dutchman label, and this was the first time where he was kind of experimenting. So you had Brian Jackson on piano and electric piano. The two of them met at university, at Lincoln University in a town called Oxford in Pennsylvania near Philadelphia. And Gil Scott-Heron chose to go there because his favourite ever poet, Langston Hughes, went there. Langston Hughes, of course, who did the famous poem I've Known Rivers, and I just thought I'd bring this as a reference. Gary Bart's one of the great saxophonists who I've also had the pleasure of interviewing a few times. This was his ode to Langston Hughes with a record that he made called I've Known Rivers, which is unbelievable and very much part of that same period of history. And Gary Bart's played the soprano sax for Miles Davis as he kind of stepped into that period from the end of the 60s into the 70s. But incredible record that's really worth checking out. And so, yeah, Gil Scott-Heron, like a lot of young artists and like a lot of us, you know, went down the road that his favourite people went down, and he saw that Langston Hughes went to this university, and so he went there, and that's where he met Brian Jackson. And Brian Jackson worked on this record with him, and of course Ron Carter, the incredible double bass player, who's still gigging, and if you can see him, it's worth seeing. Burt Jones, Hubert Laws, Pretty Purdy, and Johnny Pate as well, produced again by Bob Thiele. A really legendary coming together. I mean, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play The Revolution Will Not Be Televised into Save the Children so we can hear how he interpreted that piece from the poetry with percussion into the music. This was the beginning of a 21-year-old Gil Scott-Heron experimenting with the band. And one of the things that he said really profoundly was, for me, as a poet, as a speaker, it's not about just putting my poetry over music. It's about working with musicians to create an atmosphere that feels natural and sincere, to make it deep and poignant. And I think that's so beautiful. And I think he really does that. So yeah, we're gonna let that go into Save the Children as well, which is one of the most beautiful songs ever as well.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions. The revolution will not show you pictures of Nixon blowing a bugle and leading a charge by John Mitchell, General Abrams, and Spyro Agnew to eat hog maws confiscated from a Harlem sanctuary. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by the Schaefer Award Theater and will not star Natalie Woods and Steve McQueen or Bullwinkle and Julia. The revolution will not give your mouth sex appeal. The revolution will not get rid of the nubs. The revolution will not make you look 5 pounds thinner because the revolution will not be televised, brother. There will be no pictures of you and Willie Mae pushing that shopping cart down the block on the dead run or trying to slide that color TV into a stolen ambulance. NBC will not be able to predict the winner at 8:32 on report from 29 districts. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of Whitney Young being run out of Harlem on a rail with a brand new process. There will be no slow motion or still lights of Roy Wilkins strolling through Watts in a red, black, and green liberation jumpsuit that he has been saving for just the proper occasion. Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, and Hooterville Junction will no longer be so damn relevant, and women will not care if Dick finally got down with Jane on Search for Tomorrow, because black people will be in the street looking for a brighter day. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no highlights on the 11 o'clock news and no pictures of Harry armed women liberationists and Jackie Onassis blowing her nose. The theme song will not be written by Jim Webb or Francis Scott Keys, nor sung by Glenn Campbell, Tom Jones, Johnny Cash, Engelbert Humperdinck, or The Rare Earth. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be right back after a message about a white tornado, white lightning, or white people. You will not have to worry about a dove in your bedroom, the tiger in your tank, or the giant in your toilet bowl. The revolution will not go better with Coke. The revolution will not fight germs that may cause bad breath. The revolution will put you in the driver's seat. The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
There's a strange hum with this record, but thankfully I've got another one. So thank God for that. But yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, interesting hearing that. You can just hear it get a little bit more fusiony as well, and loads of elements coming in, and that flute and the drums that are really kind of accentuating his syllables. We're going to play Save the Children, which is a beautiful song. And throughout Gil Scott-Heron's career, one of the things that you kind of continue to see is his desire to speak to the next generation and speak about the children. He's always speaking about the children and why we must consider the next generation's reality when we make the decisions that we make and when we choose to speak up or not speak up, because they're going to have to deal with the consequences at some point. A beautiful kind of continuation of this. This was his composition with Brian Jackson, but in 1973, live at the Montreux Jazz Festival, Marlena Shaw, the great singer, did a rendition of this that Blue Note put out, and that is unbelievable. But this was the first ever release of this song that they wrote. So this is Save the Children, Gil Scott-Heron, Brian Jackson, performed by the band that I said.
If you're driving through the country on a lazy afternoon, or you're watching your children playing after school, they seem to be so unaware of, I know the things that they'll soon have to take care of. We've got to do something, yeah, to save the children. Soon it will be their turns to try and save the world. Right now they seem to play such a small part of the to be a fireman. And little Mary, she said she got to teach school. If we know all we say we know about the problems, why can't we do something to try and solve them? Soon it will be their turns to try and save the world. We've got to do something, yeah, to save the children. To save the children. To save the children.
Amazing. I want to go into the next tune, which is called Whitey on the Moon, which is almost a satirical kind of a comedic piece that speaks about the fact that, America really wants to land on the moon. They really want to get to the moon, but they don't care about all the other stuff that's going on in their own country. And it's just a fast-paced, almost like stick-mythic, rhythmic, theatrical piece of performance that, for me, is revolutionary in its form.
A rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell and Whitey's on the moon. I can't pay no doctor bills, but Whitey's on the moon. 10 years from now I'll be paying still while Whitey's on the moon. You know, the man just upped my rent last night cause Whitey's on the moon. No hot water, no toilets, no lights, but Whitey's on the moon. I wonder why he's upping me, cause Whitey's on the moon? Well, I was already giving him 50 a week and now Whitey's on the moon. Taxes taking my whole damn check. The junkies make me a nervous wreck. The price of food is going up. And as if all that crap wasn't enough, a rat done bit my sister Nell with Whitey on the moon. Her face and arms began to swell and Whitey's on the moon. Was all that money I made last year for Whitey on the moon? How come I ain't got no money here? Whitey's on the moon. You know, I just about had my fill of Whitey on the moon. I think I'll send these doctor bills, air mail special. To Whitey on the moon.
And that, this was 1971. Talk about the foundations of rap music. Nobody was doing that, you know, finding that rhythm, finding that rhyme, playing with those literary tropes that of course were spoken word, but fusing it with music. I mean, this was 2 years after Woodstock Festival, where Hendrix and Santana had enamored the youth with this new feeling that had bent away from jazz and had a little bit more of a psychedelic element, of a rockier element. It was a new idea of blackness that people were considering. It wasn't just jazz and blues music, it was now rock. And for Gil Scott-Heron to be doing this in 1971, you know, it is unbelievable, really. To think really that hip-hop found its feet 20, 25 years after this, that is a long time. So, you know, to really think about all the elements that he brings together in this is unbelievable. I want to play Home Is Where the Hatred Is, one of his more popular songs. One of the things that's really unique and inspiring about Gil Scott-Heron is he's not only just critical about governments and about those that perhaps need to be criticised around him. He's also very introspective and self-reflective. And one of the things that he really battled with was addiction. And rather than concealing that and that perhaps being something that contributed to his artistry in a different way, it was something he very much directly confronted in his art. And for me, I think that's something that's incredibly unique and something that must be, you know, really admired as far as his sincerity goes as an artist. So Home Is Where the Hatred Is speaks about that, and it speaks about the difficulties he felt with a place called home and how it was associated with certain difficulties and certain forms of addiction. So there's so much that we can take in an era of a lot of inauthenticity from somebody who was so fearlessly vulnerably authentic in themselves. This is Home Is Where the Hatred Is.
A junkie walking through the twilight, I'm on my way home. I left 3 days ago, but no one seems to know I'm gone. Home is where the hatred is. Home is filled with pain, and it might not be such a bad idea if I never went home again. And ask me why. Hang on to your rosy beat, close your eyes to watch me die. You keep saying, kick it, quit it, God, but did you ever try to turn your sick soul inside out? So that the world can watch you die. kick it, can't go home again, home again, home again. You know I can't go home again.
Unbelievable, wow. So good, man. Yeah, what an amazing song. I mean, it's emotional, isn't it? It's actually this is quite an emotional one, this session. It's funny, Gil Scott-Heron, because, you know, I play a lot of his music on the dance floor, but a lot of the themes are quite dark. You know, like The Bottle, for example, which we'll play. It's a dance floor banger. People lose it, but he's talking about alcohol addiction, you know, and it's funny with that music, isn't it? It kind of, you know, where's the line? I don't believe there should be a line drawn there, you know. At the end of the day, you share music because you get a feeling out of it. For me, Gil Scott-Heron reminds me of a lot of reggae music, you know. You feel it, you hear it, you dance, you smile, you know, you have a great time, but you then listen to the words and it's actually quite dark. But there's a beauty in that. There's a beauty in that disposition of sound, an ability to take these themes that are solemn, that make you feel a sense of maybe despair, that make you feel lonely and isolated, and convert them through music into something that can uplift you. And, you know, Gil Scott-Heron didn't give up. Nelson Mandela didn't give up. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King didn't give up. These were people that spoke of themes of sadness and despair, but they didn't let these themes defeat them. And I think that's what we've really got to remember. At a time where there is so much despair, it's too easy to give up. But the revolutionaries didn't. They took those, they felt those, they shared those feelings, but through that all, they uplifted each other. And I think that's something really magical that we've got to latch onto. At the end of the day, the most revolutionary thing of it all is remaining conscious with optimism. And I think the two of those things going hand in hand is what is most revolutionary. And I think that is what this music is in many senses. This next song's actually quite sad. No, it's actually not. It's actually not. It's actually got optimism, but it's more introspective. It's not. Oh no, I have played this on the dance floor. In fact, I played this on the dance floor in Brighton, and then someone told me that someone came into the smoking area and they were like, the DJ's playing really sad music now. But I like playing emotional music, and I like kind of, if anyone's come to my party, Studio Crom, I play for 5 hours, and I never keep the energy high the entire time. A really important part of the dance floor for me is not understanding it as a space that's a million miles away from this. You know, it's a space in which we can consume music. I see my responsibility as a DJ as one that's really important and one that's incredibly privileged. At the end of the day, if you think about it, Gil Scott-Heron performed live for so many years. Crowds would go and see him. After Gil Scott-Heron passed away, where do crowds get to collectively appreciate his music? Collectively, not in your bedroom, not in transit, not with your headphones. Where do you, primarily a club. So who becomes the mouthpiece for that music? The DJ. So to be a DJ, to be a sharer of sound, is to almost continue the legacy of somebody who's no longer there. And that is an enormous privilege. And so we must consider these feelings and these things and that privilege when we are playing. And for me, I think about that when I'm dragging my records up a bloody hill and it's so long and I'm like, oh my God, this is long. But I think about Pharoah Sanders. I think about Nina Simone. I think about Marlena Shaw. I think about Gil Scott-Heron. I think about Hugh Mundell. I think about these amazing artists who are no longer here. Hugh Mundell, who passed away at the age of 21 in Jamaica. If he knew that there's this, you know, Londoner who's got roots from Pakistan, who's walking up a hill in Norwich, dragging his records, you know, 50 years after he passed away, maybe he would be proud that his message is continuing. That is what gives me the energy. And these are the things that we need to consider. And that's why vinyl is so important. You know, of course there are barriers to entry. Of course it's easier to listen to everything digitally. But it's so important at a time where we are so easily preoccupied by valuing convenience over craftsmanship that we do not neglect the physical in the age of digital, where it's so easy to just intangibly grab something. I had it in Berlin. I had a really interesting moment a day and a half ago. I was DJing from 1 till 4 a.m. I brought all these records with me, but I'd come straight from Albania. So it was kind of my Albania festival stack as well. And there was just a moment where I was like, I don't know what the next record's going to be. And I did what I very rarely do, and I put my radio USB, I had it with me, I put it into the CDJ, and I started going down, and then I played a couple of tunes on the CDJ, and then I was like, oh well, this is easy. And then I remember there was this moment where I saw a tune that I wanted to play, and I had it in my stack of 100 records. I didn't know where it was, and I was like, well, I could just play it on the CDJ, and I was like, and I slapped myself. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I cannot go down that road. But even that feeling scared me. Even that feeling of, I just didn't care as much in that moment. I just thought I could just play this, it's easier. And it just made me think I can never stop bringing records to gigs with me. Because the moment I do, I'm not going to care about the music as much. You know, lugging this on, I don't know how many flights I've been on in the last 10 days, 4, 5, 6 flights and a couple of trains, taking this around countries with me and doing that, and almost being in the hands of the gods when it's going through airports and you're just on the other side of that baggage reclaim belt, hoping that your life kind of comes, otherwise, you know, and I haven't even got an AirTag at the moment, I'm so stupid. But, you know, really praying for it, and then it arrives, and for me, it's all part of actually really valuing what it's all about. Journeying through my records, when I play a long set, I love kind of almost reflecting the breadth and the palette of the human disposition. Sometimes we're joyous, sometimes we're energetic, but actually sometimes we also want to be reflective. And to be on the dance floor is a really special, sacred moment where we don't just have to feel total euphoria. Maybe it's a space where we process grief. Maybe it's a spot where we think about the fact that we were a bit sad that week, but we had nobody to share it with because work was too intense. Maybe it's a spot where you actually just stop for a moment and you have that dream that you've been thinking of, that you really want to do, but you've not had a spot on your own to just think about it. Maybe it's those spaces. So for me, playing a song like this on the dance floor is also really important. And this is one of the most beautiful songs that I actually think exists in my record collection. And I came across this record this January in New York, Winter in America, Brian Jackson and Gil Scott-Heron. They'd left Flying Dutchman. This was the first record on Strata East. This was 1974, I believe. And really cool artwork as well. This is just one of those records that's been pressed to perfection. And this song that I'm going to play is Peace Go With You, Brother, Assalamu Alaikum. And it's a slowed down thing of beauty. And it's Brian Jackson, Danny Bowens and Bob Adams that are accompanying Gil Scott-Heron's words on this. Let's listen to the words.
Every brother, everywhere, feels that time is in the air. Common blood flows through common veins, and the common eyes all see the same. Now, more than ever, all the family must be together.
Peace go with your brother. Though I ain't so proud anymore, peace go with your brother. Recognition don't come cheap anymore. You my lawyer, you my doctor, yeah, but somehow you forgot about me. And now when I see you, all I can say is peace. Peace go with your brother. Don't seem to matter much now, just what I say. Peace Peace go with your brother. You the kind of man who think he got to have his own way. You're my father, you're my uncle and my cousin and my son. But sometimes I wish you were none. But I manage to smile and I say, peace go with your brother. Peace go with your brother. Don't make no sense for us to be arguing now. Time is right up on us now, brothers. Don't make no sense for us to be arguing now. All of your children and all of my children are gonna have to pay for our mistakes someday. Yes, and until then, may peace guide your way. Yeah. Peace go with your brother. Wherever you go, peace go with your brother.
I actually think that's just one of the most beautiful songs ever. The last theme was civil rights jazz, and the theme before that was songs of freedom and protest. And I've played that in each session. So that might be one of the most played songs of the residency. And long may it continue. I'll play that in psychedelic rock if I have to. We'll find a way to put that in. It's not online as well. It's not on Spotify. It might be on YouTube. There's a really interesting moment as well. 47 seconds in, there's like, do you know what? Let me just try and find it. There's like a 1.5 second little synth. And I looked it up because it sounded like this Kendrick Lamar song from Section 80, his second ever EP in 2011. And it turns out that they sampled that 1.5 seconds as an entire loop through the whole song. So just to pay homage to politically outspoken Black poets of our times. It's an amazing nod to kind of that appreciation, just knowing that Kendrick sampled that. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm just going to try, okay? Just bear with me. I'm going to try and just land it near, and I'm just going to tell you where it is.
Now,
I'll let you know when, and then I'm going to change it, obviously.
all the family must be together.
Peace go with your brother.
That bit. Oh. Anyway, go and listen. I think it's Poe Man's Dreams is the Kendrick song, but just that. That was it, and that was the entire Kendrick Lamar song, and it's such a subtle reference. I don't think many people ever clocked it, but it's so beautiful to know that even, of course, Kendrick Lamar looks up to Gil Scott-Heron. No, I'm going to play another song off this. We should play The Bottle, isn't it? We should play The Bottle, because that was the first song that I ever heard on Six Music when I was 15 years old. I was walking through Regent's Park. I remember the exact bit of Regent's Park, just down from the hub towards the boating lake, and this came on. And I remember going on the Six Music page and being like, what's this song? This guy called Gil Scott-Heron, The Bottle. And that was one of the moments for me that snapped me out of... I was actually just into hip-hop and rap at that point of my life, but this was one of the moments that got me into more music from the past. And yeah, it's of course, it's a dance floor tune. This song goes off on the dance floor every time. But when you listen to the lyrics, of course, it is about Gil Scott-Heron talking about addiction. I think he speaks about it in the third person. A lot of his songs he's speaking in the third person, but it nods to something a little bit more personal. But it's a tune as well. So, you know, if you've got to dance, you've got to dance. This is The Bottle, Gil Scott-Heron. Incredibly pressed record, this as well.
Oh, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You see that black boy over there running scared, his old man in a bottle. He done quit his 9 to 5, he drank full time, and now he's living in a bottle. See that black boy over there running scared, his old man got a problem, and it's a bad one. He ain't done pawned off damn near everything, his old woman a wedding ring for a bottle. And don't you think it's a crime when time after time after time, people in a bottle. There's people living in a bottle. Listen to me. See that sister, her show was fine. Oh, she started drinking wine from the bottle. She told me, oh man committed a crime, he's doing time, now she's hanging in a bottle. I seen her out there on the avenue all by herself, and sure need help from the bottle. I seen her, preacher man tried to help her out, she cussed him out and hit him in the head with the bottle. They turned to me, they asked me, Gil, don't you think it's a crime? No way. And time after time after time, people in the bottle. There's people showing up in the bottle. Give another good example. You see that gent in a Rico suit there, he done damn near blown his cool to the bottle. He was a doctor helping young girls along. If they wasn't too far gonna have problems. But the offenders of the Dollar Eagle said, what you doing, man, illegal. Now he's in the bottle. And now we watch him every day. He's trying to chase the prisons away from the bottle. He turned to me, he said, man, now, don't you think it's a crime? The way time after time, friends of mine in the bottle. There's people showing up in the bottle. Come on, hit it a lick one time, stick. Whoever come looking for me, you know where I'm bound to be, in a bottle. Turn around, look around on any corner. If you see some brother looking like a goner, it's gonna be Get a bottle of wine, $1.09, get a bottle of wine, $1.09, get a bottle of wine, a bottle. Yeah, all that I'm concerned about is a bottle. It can turn me inside out of a bottle. All I want, all I want, all I want, all I want, since I'm living on the bottom of a bottle.
What a tune. It's unbelievable. It's amazing. It's almost like his personal ones are the most fun. And the lyrics are quite deep, but the vibes are quite high. It's just an amazing song, and that will be played on dance floors forever, as it should be. And yeah, oh, man, I mean, I wish we could just listen to all of every record. I think we've got time for one more tune. It's really special. I mean, every time I'm in this room and I get to play these records, I mean, it's amazing because, like you guys, before I spin these records in here, I've listened to it, on bloody AirPods or at home on a little Bluetooth speaker, and it's just not the same. This gives such sonic justice to these incredible records in a way that is so special, and we're so lucky to be able to be in this room. This has got to be one of the best rooms in London, isn't it? If you had to rank like top 5 rooms in London, what would they be? London Dungeons, this, Madame Tussauds, would that be in there? And it's jokes though, I would love to go back to Madame Tussauds. Magic mushrooms and Madame Tussauds. That could be quite funny. Anyway, this one, got to finish with this, 1977, Bridges. We focus on the 70s today, because that's what I don't like, kind of going all the way quickly through. Same with my radio shows, when I do a celebration of someone, we just focus on, tends to be the early years, that's what I like doing. Bridges, Gil Scott-Heron, Brian Jackson. Of course, this has got the song We Almost Lost Detroit, and I found it in Detroit, in that shop with that annoying guy. Had to buy it though. It was cheaper than the other one. It's still expensive though. And look at this, Brian Jackson, to Haseeb, nice chatting with you. He came up, and you can listen back to our radio interview. It's on my radio show, which I broadcast on every Wednesday, haseebiqbal.world. And yeah, I'm going to finish by playing We Almost Lost Detroit. I mean, this is a record that was inspired by Gil Scott-Heron's travels. A lot of places that he went to, from New York, of course, which he knew so well, to Marseille. He's got a song called Racetrack in France that's inspired by his journey there, to Detroit. But the song We Almost Lost Detroit actually concerns a historical situation that was kind of written out of history, but that was incredibly sad. And essentially, the American government had put one of the most poisonous nuclear plants in the world. This is after Hiroshima as well, just outside of Detroit in Michigan, which was one of the blackest states in terms of demographic in that part of America, because of course of the Great Migration. And one day there was a minor leak, and this nuclear plant had the ability to have wiped out the entire black population of Detroit and Michigan had it gone wrong. And it almost went completely wrong, but there was still radioactive poison that was let out into the air that went on to affect people, but it wasn't really talked about, analysed, and understood and considered in terms of the news and in terms of the history. So again, a song that we might listen to on the dance floor that we love because it brings us this incredible vibe. It nods to something that was actually a lot more kind of harrowing. but still a beautiful piece of music, of course. So I think I want to finish off by playing We Almost Lost Detroit by Gil Scott-Heron and Brian Jackson. And it was extra special that this is an original pressing and I found it in Detroit, which is not a very big city. I mean, it's only got a population of 600,000 people, still bigger than Curaçao. I'm going to buy a Curaçao shirt, actually. I hope they win. They've got some not great teams in their things, so I think they can do it. Anyway, We Almost Lost Detroit.
Stands out on the highway like a creature from another time. It inspires the baby's questions. What's that? For their mothers as they ride. But no one stopped to think about the babies or how they would survive. And we've almost lost Detroit this time. How would we ever get over losing our minds? Just 30 miles from Detroit stands a giant power station. It ticks each night as the city sleeps. The seconds from annihilation. But no one stopped to think about the people or how they would survive. And we've almost lost Detroit this time. How would we ever get over losing our mind? The sheriff of Monroe County had sure enough disasters on his mind. And what would Karen Silkwood say to you if she was still alive? That when it comes to people's safety, money wins out every time. And we've almost lost Detroit this time. This time, how would we ever get over losing our minds? You see, we almost lost Detroit that time. We almost lost Detroit that time. And how will we ever get over? The odds are we're gonna lose somewhere. One time, odds are we're gonna lose somewhere. Sometime. And how will we ever get over losing our mind? How will we ever get over losing our mind? Didn't dig the sign.
And I mean, like, wow, that is, listening to that on this system, incredibly harrowing. And I've never realised that line. When it comes to people's safety, money wins out every time. And yesterday marks the 9th anniversary of Grenfell Tower. You know, Gil Scott-Heron would probably be looking at this world thinking, perhaps feeling a sense of sadness that we haven't come as far as we should have. And you know, what I take from this session, you know, delving into the history of who he was and what he represented and listening to his incredibly revolutionary music, is the fact that we can't be spectators in this world of horror. You know, we can't be spectators who want to dip into culture when it's convenient and stay away from revolution when it's scary. We all are human beings. We all have an ability to wake up every day. We all have the gift that is life. And for me, Gil Scott-Heron is a teacher and a reminder of what we are capable of achieving when we come together and stand up for what we believe in and stand up for those who need us most when they don't have a voice. So I want to say thank you to Gil Scott-Heron for this incredible music today and for really injecting this sense of emotion into me. I want to say thank you so much to all of you who've come and joined me tonight. It's a real honour. This is actually, I played in Berlin yesterday, Sunday morning. Berlin in the morning, Paris in the afternoon, and here this evening. So I don't think I've ever done gigs in 3 countries in a day and a half. So thank you for bearing with me and for giving me the space and energy to perform for you all. And I want to say thank you to Pav as well and to Alex from 180 for always facilitating these sessions. This is my 47th 2-hour session here, which is, a series that I'm so proud of, and a series that it's not only about me imparting what I know, it's a space for me to just share as well. And I've gotten so much out of this series in terms of the music, in terms of the history, a space where I can nerd out about stuff that I once just did on my own in my bedroom, but there's actually there's an audience for it, which it sells, which is great. So thank you so much, everybody. I've been Haseeb Iqbal. It's been a Gil Scott-Heron special, and see you in a bit. Thank you.